of this series, Countdown Till Christmas. And today, I think I am just going to bring you a little bit into the kitchen and look at some of the things that we have been finding in our garden and how we use them in the kitchen. So, I had a lot of thoughts. There's definitely got to be a banana day around here because there's so many bananas that we are harvesting that it's crazy. But then my husband, I asked him to check on the sweet potatoes this morning, and since he was with his boots on and in the garden, he decided to also check on the turmeric, or what we call in Spanish, curcuma. Now, if it's English is anything like Spanish, there might be more than one pronunciation. I've heard people say turmeric. I've heard people say turmeric. I've heard people say turmeric. I don't know. And in Spanish, I have heard people say curcuma, and I have heard people say curcuma. So, I don't know. However you say it, curcuma is a root. It looks a lot like ginger if you've never seen it before. And it is used a lot in Indian dishes because of its distinctive yellow-orange coloring that it releases. It gets on your hands, it gets on your cloths, your dishcloths. It is even used to dye cloth. I do believe, however, that turmeric does not have it has, let's say, a tendency to fade. So it is not eternally persistent. It's not a colorway that sticks forever. And the same goes for your hands. When you're dealing with it, your hands get all orangey red, but I've also noticed that in addition to being orangey red, your skin and your nails specifically turn to kind of like dry out. So it does go away with a couple of wash, but it'll be there for a while. And on the other hand, I have heard people say that it doesn't stain their hands. So I don't know. I can tell you that it stains mine. So there's a little video where I show you how my husband harvested the curcuma this morning. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how I am going to use it to make today's lunch. See you in a little bit. So, we were busy this morning at the Mind and Muse Crafts household. In addition to the turmeric, my husband discovered some sweet potatoes that were about ready to harvest and some figs that I had been watching for a while because there were about 8 or 9 of them, but apparently they had fallen off and ripened without me noticing, and there were only 2 left on the tree. So that happens. I'm going to prepare the rice, and for the rice, I'll give you a look at what I'm doing. Notice my gloves. I have taken several pieces of This is the turmeric or the curcuma. My husband says it comes in little hands because these are all intertwined when you take them out of the ground. And I have removed pieces about this size. And I have grated off the outer skin until it looks like this. And now, in addition, I am going to grate that into a fine, very fine pieces. Using just my hand grater, I have grated that. So just some regular olive oil, about a tablespoon or two into the pot. If you had some avocado oil or if you had some other tasty, you could probably use that too for a good effect. Now that that is done, I am going to also add some garlic. And I guess you can do this however you want. You can grate it down like I'm doing it, or chop it finely. So I have added about a cup and a half of rice, to the oil and the onions, obviously, and turmeric, because that's supposed to be the main ingredient. And I'm just going to let that rice cook in that oil for a couple of minutes. After that, I will add just this So to this I have added about maybe a half teaspoon of salt, and that is just by personal taste, how salty or how unsalted you want it. I have also raised the cooking fire so that it could cook at a higher temperature until that water starts to boil. Once the water is boiling, I will let it cook for about 5 minutes on a high temperature. Then I will cover it and let it cook on low for about 45 minutes. And that will be it for the rice. If you don't want rice that is too mushy, you need to control the water. Some people say 2 cups of water for every cup of rice because this is long grain. I find that too soft for my taste, so I usually go 1 3/4. And do not stir it frequently. It is stirred once when you add the water, and then you don't stir it again until after that half hour, 45 minutes has gone by. Now this is jasmine rice, so most likely I'll leave it for half an hour only because it's a soft rice and it cooks pretty quickly. Now, as I said, I also have a winter squash soup on the menu. So I am just going to start out with a couple of tablespoons of butter, whatever. Guess you could use oil also if that was your preference, or earth balance, whatever it is that you use as your fat content. And again, in that oil, I am going to stir fry the other half of the onion that was left over. along with that tablespoon of turmeric or curcuma that I put away. And this I'm going to stir fry for I'm going to cook on a low simmer for probably about 20 minutes. Earlier I put my squash into my Instapot because that is another kitchen utensil that I use a lot, the Instapot. And whenever I get a chance to, I prefer to use it over the stove. I have a gas stove, and here that cylinder gas is a lot more expensive than our electricity because we live in a solar house. Now that could be something else that I could get my husband to talk to you about on another video if you're interested. But we live in a solar house, and therefore whenever I get a chance on a bright sunny day like today to use something electric, I prefer it than to use my gas stove. So I've already got that done. My Instapot has already turned off and it is ready to be opened. Then I am simply going to, I am simply going to wait for this to cook for a while, and then I will put everything, the squash plus the onions and the curcuma, some salt, pepper again, and I'll put all of that into the blender and I'll just blend it up into a simple squash soup, to which obviously you could add some Parmesan cheese if you like that type of thing, or you could add some cranberries if you're into mixing your fruits with your veggies, and maybe a couple of sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds would go very nicely also. So it's just a simple lunchy dinner with no meat because my husband's a vegetarian, but it's okay for us. We're just two, and anything simple during the day is going to work. Okay, so now we're going to check up on these two items here to make sure everything is okay. First, let's see what the rice looks like. And as promised, there's nothing fascinating about it. It's just a yellow rice that is turned yellow using a natural ingredient, which is the turmeric. And in terms of the flavor, you'll find that the rice is a bit spicy, but not in a pepper sense, but it's spicy because of the amount of the ginger that I added. I may have gone over a bit on that. But yes, it would go well with a pot of stewed beans or a pot of stewed meat. Maybe you do a stew roast beef, or you do a stewed chicken, or maybe you just stew some veggies and eat it along with that. It would go very well. Or maybe just have a little salad on the side. The soup is ready. Well, ready or not, right? Because usually these things, they tell you they should be simmered for a while. It helps to enhance the flavor. And so I had never found squash soup or pumpkin soup to be very tasty soup. It more depends on what you put into it, because squash is pretty bland. So depending on the amount of salt, the quantities, and the combination of different peppers that you have used, every once in a while I like to add a couple of drops of hot sauce to mine. You might want to add some Parmesan cheese to this, or like I'm going to do, you might add some cranberries or some sunflower seeds. And it is quite hot here, so soup might not be the best item on the menu, but it'll do. It'll do for a quick lunch and settle down to a cozy afternoon. It does look again like it's going to rain here today, so it'll be fine. All in all, it was a simple yet satisfying lunch. My husband was very happy. With this, I'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Countdown Till Christmas.